I don't feel like myself at all. That night, I had taken a red-eye all the way from London to New York and then hopped on a bus to take me the rest of the way to Vermont. I was completely and utterly exhausted by the time I approached the gates of Iris Academy, but I quickly used an energy spell to give me at least a little bit more pep than I would have had otherwise. Not that I really needed it, though. I was going to see Hieronymous again, and, true, we had just spent Thanksgiving together, but that felt like it had been years ago. I wanted to spend the rest of my life with Hieronymous, and I would steal every extra second that I got to spend with him. I make my way up to Professor Potsdam's office, feeling sufficiently awkward as I see students milling about in the courtyard. Most students were already in class, but I can't help but feel like people are secretly whispering about me anyway. After all, I had no idea what Potsdam had told them about why Ellen and I had been expelled, and was more than likely that some students would be absolutely shocked to see me walking around with my magic and memories still intact. As I make my way to Potsdam's office, I can't help but grin broadly as I see Hieronymous standing outside her door, waiting for me. Even though we're in public where anyone can see us, I run up to him and wrap my arms around his waist, kissing him deeply. "There you are," Hieronymous says as he pulls away from me slightly. "There's my little horse." "I've grown from a filly to a mare," I agree, trying to impress Hieronymous with the small knowledge of horses I had learned at Miss Minchin's. Apparently, she hadn't been happy to hear that I was leaving the school to return to Iris Academy, but at least Aloysius had fronted my tuition for the year, so she wasn't losing out on any money. I hadn't made any real friendships there anyway. Lavinia would probably be happy to see me go, but I was only ever just polite to Ermengarde and Jessie, and we hadn't really become friends yet. "Yes," he says as he ruffles my hair. "Are you sure you want to do this, Tori?" "Potsdam told you that I made her vow not to hurt me, right?" I ask, and he nods his head. "Yes," he says. "We'll have to talk about that later, but she also told me that you were bragging about me to her daughter." "I didn't say anything that isn't true," I tell him, "just that I refused to accept her invitation of re-enrollment unless you approved it, because you are the smartest person in the world and I don't do anything without your counsel." "Oh, if only that were true," Hieronymous teases as he leans forward to kiss my forehead. "Are you ready to go in?" "Only if you are," I reply. "By the way, I think we should act extra coupley if you're down for it. She didn't seem to like me talking about how great you obviously are." "Oh, well, in that case..." Hieronymus lets his voice trail off as he kisses me deeply, and I can't help but blush, slightly breathless, as he finally pulls away. "There we go." "Shut up," I whisper, mostly to disguise the fact that I am blushing crimson. He just smirks as he offers me his arm, and I quickly take it as we head inside. Becky is already in there, sitting at a small chair pulled up against Potsdam's desk. "Oh, miss!" She gets up and rushes over to me, and I reluctantly let go of Hieronymus's arm so I can hug her back. "It's so good to see you again." "It's good to see you too, Becky," I say with a light chuckle. "Although you just saw me yesterday, remember?" "I do, but it's always nice to see you again, miss." She quickly turns to Hieronymus and almost stumbles over herself as she performs a curtsy. "And it's nice to meet you, Lord Grabiner. Tori has told me much about your wisdom and your knowledge and your patience and your good looks and your sense of humor and your..." She turns red as Hieronymus just arches an eyebrow. "Oh, pardon me, sir, I'm starting to ramble, I am. I meant no offense." "It's quite all right," Hieronymus says gently. "It's nice to meet you as well." "It just shows you're a good listener," I offer, and Becky's face brightens. "Lady Grabiner is a true treasure, sir," she continues. "When I worked at Miss Minchin's, I was a slave girl, see, and I didn't have not a penny to my name. There were times when she would whip me right proper when I made mistakes, she did, and at times she sent me to bed without supper. Tori would always leave some food out for me, always making sure I had a warm place to sleep. I had a room in the attic, you see, and on nights when it rained. Thank you, Becky, Potsdam says quickly. Speaking of, why don't you run off and get a bite to eat, Oh, no thanks, ma'am, but Becky sees the look on her face and suddenly realizes that it was really a request to leave. Oh, I'm sorry, I'll just leave you to, Her voice trails off as she skirts around the door quickly and shuts it behind her. Well, you certainly have made an impression on that girl, Potsdam sighs as she sweeps her hair out of her face with one hand. Do remember that it was only Tori's generosity that allowed you to find that girl in the first place, Hieronymous reminds her. She is truly your daughter, then? It seems, Potsdam replies as she settles down in her chair. It seems like a strange way to answer the question, but I don't dwell on it. Even if Becky wasn't her daughter by birth, it seemed that she had taken her in now, and if it gave Becky a chance at a better life, then so be it. Well, I am very happy for you, Hieronymous says with absolutely no enthusiasm in his voice whatsoever. So you expel Tori in this very room to help you find your daughter, and now that she is found, you wish to open her back with open arms? Something like that, Potsdam replies. Becky would only hear of going to Iris Academy if Tori was there with her. But she hasn't even begun to learn magic, I point out. She'd be starting at a freshman level, wouldn't she? I only have less than a year left until I graduate. That is very true, Potsdam admits, but it's enough of a solid foundation to get her acclimated to what living in America can be like. I trust that you already have experience as a cultural ambassador, considering all the time you spent with Mr. Callister last year. Oh, yeah, I say, suddenly putting two and two together for myself. Yeah, I guess that would make me a good candidate to help out. If Tori feels comfortable doing so, Hieronymous reminds her. After your harsh dismissal last year, it's understandable that Tori has concerns about returning here. Potsdam forces a saccharine smile. You know that she has made me vow not to hurt her, or expel her, or wipe her memories or magic. Yes, but that doesn't mean you can't hurt her in other ways, Hieronymous replies. I can't think of other ways that she could hurt me, aside through my friends, but this was why Hieronymous was here, to defend me. That would require a significant effort on my part, Potsdam tells him. I understand that you do not trust me, considering you have reminded me of that fact with every interaction we've had since last summer. But believe me when I say that my part in Tori's story is over. Yes, I orchestrated your marriage, and yes, I told her about Violet and gave her a little nudge in the right direction. Yes, I used her as bait to lure out Damien when I knew he was behind her memory lapse for quite some time, and yes, I did look the other way when she sent that girl through the portal to the other world until it became something I couldn't ignore. You two are married now, and quite happily by the looks of it. Thank me or not, but it is honestly exhausting dealing with Tori's drama, and I want no part of it. Your relationship is solid, and as long as Tori keeps her nose out of trouble, we don't have to have any further interactions until I am congratulating her on her graduation day. They both turn to me, but I have no idea what they want me to say. Okay, believe it or not, but I don't actively go looking for trouble. It just seems to find me. Well, try to help it, dear, Potsdam says, her tone reeking of condescension. Do not talk to her like she's a child, Hieronymous snaps, and Potsdam looks almost as surprised as I feel. Tori is not just a student of this institution. She is Lady Grabiner, the Viscountess presiding over the Shade of Shetlock, and you will treat her with the same respect that you would treat any noble that holds the Grabiner family name. You should consider yourself lucky that she would even consider returning here to bolster Iris Academy's reputation. Of course, Potsdam says sweetly, turning to me. I meant no disrespect, Lady Grabiner. I just nod, a bit too stunned to speak. Part of me was surprised to hear Hieronymous defend me this way, but another part of me was way too turned on by the authority in his voice to really think on it further. To be honest, I had never heard Hieronymous talk about me like that, ever. For the first time, I really felt like I was his wife, and not just some silly schoolgirl he happened to accidentally fall in love with. I feel like I'm practically glowing as I smile softly at him, and it's when that Hieronymous returns, taking my hand as he runs his thumb over my knuckles. Do you want to come back here, Tori? He asks me in a low voice, as if Potsdam wasn't even in the room. I appreciate your consideration for your friend, but you don't have to if you don't want to. I think it could be nice to finish up my education here, I say softly. I am going to miss you, though. I have so many memories of our time here together. I don't know what it's going to be like without you here to guide me. If it's anything like the past few months, Tori, you're going to be just fine, Hieronymous says as he turns back to Potsdam. You have taken advantage of Tori, as you have many Wild Seed students. They're not my concern, but Tori is. If I get one word that you are mistreating her, if I even sense that something is amiss, I will make you accountable for every misguided action you have taken to secure your position here. Do you understand me? Potsdam just stares him down coldly. I've already said I have no interest in making Tori's life harder than it has to be. But let's not forget, Hieronymous, that you have cause for concern as well. I don't think that the council would be very pleased to hear about your memory experiments, now would they? Trying to restore someone's memories after they've been taken would seemingly undermine the decision set by the council, which, one could argue, is an act of treason. Hieronymous grits his teeth, and I can't stand having Potsdam think that she is one over on him. But he hasn't actually restored anyone's memories. It's all theoretical, I remind her. And besides, it was your idea, wasn't it? And you're the headmaster. He was just a professor. One could argue that you might have used your authority to threaten his job if he didn't do what you asked. Potsdam snorts dismissively out her nose. That's ridiculous. Do you think anyone would believe that I could actually threaten a noble? But he wasn't a viscount yet, I point out, and I'm sure Aloysius would corroborate our story. He is friends with many on the council, after all. Do you honestly think he would sell out his son and let the Grabiner name vanish from the history books forever? I wasn't sure if what I had said about Aloysius was true, or what the council even comprised of, but it seems that there's enough truth in my statement to make Potsdam back down. Hieronymous just gives her a smug smile as he reaches over and smooths down the back of my hair. You two really are a pair, Potsdam says as she shakes her head. I have no idea what I was thinking when I set you two up together. Well, I know I'm very thankful for it, I tell her, and the appreciation in my voice is genuine. This only seems to frustrate her further. So, Hieronymous, do you have any more questions for me? She asks, and he just shakes his head. Okay then, she says, turning back to me. Then we just have a few last bits of housekeeping points to go over. As I'm sure you've already assumed, you will no longer be residing in Hieronymous's old room, which has been given over to another member of the faculty. Instead, you will be staying in your old room, along with Virginia and Becky. Hieronymus has already set up your $5 weekly stipend, which will be distributed to you every Saturday morning by Manuel, treasurer of the senior class. With the exception of Christmas and spring break, you will remain here until your graduation on the 1st of May, upon which time you will have officially finished your enrollment with us. Your official records have been updated to reflect your marital name and your nobility status, although do not expect any of the staff to grant you any special privileges. Are we clear? I pause, rolling my eyes over to Hieronymous. He just looks back at me, waiting patiently for me to make up my mind. Yeah, that sounds more or less along the lines of what I expected. Good for Manuel, though. I know he really wanted it. He ran unopposed, she says quickly, as if she could really care less. Now, unless I see you in any of my classes, this is hopefully the last time we will talk in private. Please do try to finish up your education here without inviting any further comment on yourself, Lady Grabiner. You can just call me Tori, I tell her simply, and I will try. Believe it or not, I really am sorry that you've had to look out for me over the past few years, and you got caught into all of this drama with Hieronymous and his father. But I did find your daughter, so hopefully that makes us square. Potsdam just shoots a tight-lipped smile in my direction. You should get along now, dear. I'm sure you want to settle in and get used to everything again, Roger that, I say as I get to my feet, my hand still linked with Hieronymous's. We'll be in touch, he says curtly, and she just nods. I wonder what that's about, but honestly, I don't really care all that much as we head out of her office. The sun is shining, but there's a cold breeze in the air, and I can't help but step a little closer to Hieronymus as he wraps his arms around me. Are you going to be going now? I ask, hating the fact that I sound like a little kid. He seems to wrestle with himself for a moment. I don't have to head off just yet, he finally decides. Would you like to take a walk of the grounds with me? Make sure you remember where everything is? Uh-huh, I say, not able to venture much more than that. He takes my hand and leads me over to the trails, which were thankfully still more or less deserted since class was still in session. As we're walking, though, I can't help but think about how this was the place where Keo tried to kill me. The place where Musette had been summoned, and the place where we had sent her back to the other world. And, most importantly, it was the place where Damien had stolen my memories of Hieronymus. This school was littered with memories of Hieronymus. I remember when we had made out in the detention room when I forgot he was my husband, but still felt drawn to him anyway. I remember when I had tried to save him from the madness in the mailroom, and then we had gotten married in the dungeons deep beneath the school. I remember the last time I slept in my dorm room and fell asleep listening to Virginia and Ellen snoring away. Not only was Ellen gone now, but I had spent so much time in that bed just dreaming about Hieronymus without being able to remember that he was my husband. Heck, I had even broken down in the shower when I thought he didn't want to be with me anymore, and I could easily say now that that had hurt more than a death by 1,000 cuts. Tori, what's wrong? Hieronymus asks gently, smoothing back my hair with his free hand. Nothing, I whimper, avoiding his eyes, but I can tell Hieronymus is waiting for an answer, and that's when the tears start to come. He quickly pulls us into a copse of trees as he wraps his arms around me, and I cry openly into his chest. I'm sorry, I blubber into his shirt. I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep it together. I am. What's wrong? He asks, not altogether unkindly. Just tell me what's wrong, and I'll make it better. I can't help but smile in spite of myself. I don't know, I say, pulling away from him slightly as I wipe at my face with the edge of my sleeve. Everything in this school reminds me of you. We were supposed to do everything together. This year was supposed to be about figuring out what our future was going to look like, together. And now you're not here. I was so happy living with you the past year and a half, and now I'm back in the dorms again. The same bed I slept in when I didn't know we were married. But you do remember now, Hieronymus says gently, and I will write to you. Every day. I mean it this time. Just do what you did before. Go to class. Go back to your room and study. Study with your friends in the library and talk with them over dinner. Don't join in any of Mr. Danson's hijinks. Don't go anywhere you're not supposed to go. If you see something amiss, tell a teacher, preferably not Potsdam. I can't help but giggle. But that sounds boring. Hieronymous just smiles as he brushes my hair out of my face. But if you do, it means we can travel the world together in May. It's almost December now. Isn't that worth it? It is, I tell him, the tears slowing to a stop as I beam up at him. I mean, you are. You're worth everything to me. Hieronymous smiles back at me with the softest, most loving expression I've ever seen from him as he bends down to kiss me. Damn it, Tori, he whispers, shaking his head. Why'd you have to do this to me? I blink at him. What? I have things to take care of, but I can't leave you like this, he says with a sigh. I'll get a hotel room in town and stay the night, just to make sure you're okay. I smile up at him, but it's a sad smile. But you have work to take care of. I don't want to get in the way of that. You can go. I'll be fine. I'll be upset, sure, but I'm always sad when you're not around. But I'll do what you said, and I'll keep out of trouble. You can trust me. I do trust you, Hieronymous says, but you're more important than anything else to me. Let's get you settled into your room, and then we can spend at least one more night all to ourselves. I can't help but grin up at him. You're the best.